Hey guys, today we are going to start our journey on learning about Newton's laws of motion. So this foldable is, going to give us a quick preview of what Newton's laws are, the first law, second law, and third law. We'll be able to write what the actual laws are, the definitions underneath here, and a little information about Sir Isaac Newton. Today we're just going to focus on getting this cut out and glued in your notebook and what Newton's first law is. So what you're going to do first is take scissors and you are going to cut out just this general shape of a rectangle around the outer edge. So just the solid line. Don't cut anything in the middle, especially do not cut the dotted line. So you're going to cut this out and it's going to end up looking like this. Once you get it here, you are going to cut straight down the middle, this solid line. So for this foldable, the solid lines are for cutting and the dotted lines are for folding, so don't cut the dotted line. So now here's the left side. We're going to cut along this solid line again to give ourselves the flaps. And the right side, we're going to do the same thing. Okay, so now that we have our flaps cut, what we're going to do next is on this dotted line, we're just going to fold these over like this so that it's a little bit easier for us to open it and then to also glue it in the right spot. So again, we'll just fold these over. Okay, so see, that one's ready. Go to the right side, we're going to fold here and fold here. Okay, so you see that these have these long solid tabs that go along the side. This is where we are going to put glue, not on the side with the writing, but just along the tab on the back. So you're going to take your glue stick, and I can tell where my paper's been folded, so that's where I'm going to put the glue. And you're going to glue it into your notebook. If you have a composition notebook and not a spiral, yours may not fit perfectly, and so it's very okay if the flaps on the inside overlap a little bit. Oh, see, I didn't put mine far enough over on the right. So even in this type of notebook, do you see how they overlap a little bit? That is perfectly fine. We will just keep that in mind whenever we are writing our notes. So we are going to focus just on Newton's first law of motion. We've already had a little introduction to it. So, and then see if you will keep the other flaps closed. You can see exactly how much writing that you'll have so that they don't overlap. I'm going to zoom in here. So again, we're writing under Newton's first law. So we have learned that the first law, let me zoom in a little bit more so you can see, is called the law of inertia. And inertia is spelled like inertia, but I don't want us to pronounce it that way. I want us to say it correctly. So the law of inertia. And the law of inertia tells us two things. One, it tells us that objects at rest want to stay at rest. So objects at rest stay at rest unless. So objects at rest stay at rest. This is like what our introduction video showed us. Objects are lazy. If they've already been still, they want to stay being still. So objects at rest are going to stay at rest unless they are acted upon, which means affected by. So unless they are acted upon by an outside and unbalanced force. So we've already learned that unbalanced forces cause changes in motion. So this makes sense for our law here, that if an object is at rest, it's going to want to stay at rest. But if an outside unbalanced force acts upon it, that's going to change its motion. So it may have been at rest, but because of the unbalanced force, it's probably going to start moving. It also tells us that the opposite is true, that objects that are already in motion are going to want to stay in motion. So objects in motion, so that means moving objects, objects in motion want to stay in motion. So remember that we said unless. Remember we said objects are lazy. That doesn't mean that they always want to be still. That means that they don't want to put the effort into changing their motion. So if they're already in motion, they're already moving, it's just easier for them to stay moving. They don't want to have to put in the effort to stop. So objects in motion are going to stay in motion, and then we have our unless again, unless the same thing happens, unless they are acted upon by an outside, unbalanced force. Because objects are lazy, if they're already moving, they want to stay moving. If they're already at rest, they want to stay at rest, unless some type of force outside of the object that's unbalanced causes a change in their motion. So this is law 1. It goes by different names. It could be called Newton's first law, law 1, or the law of inertia.